Welcome back to the Gem Cutter's Craft. It has been 15 months since I started my Jambpeg journey, which seems so crazy. I just looked back on my old YouTube videos to see when was the last time I did a Jambpeg journey update, and it was 7 months ago. I couldn't believe it. I've just looked at the calendar to see what have I been doing in the last 6 or 7 months, and then when I looked at the calendar, I thought, oh, okay, I see. Travel, class, travel, holidays. It's been a crazy year, along with announcing a new book and writing a new book. It's just been busy time. Not enough time for Jambpeg cutting, unfortunately, but I do have some interesting updates and interesting news, enough that I thought would be cool to make a video. So in the last Jambpeg journey, which was the 7-month anniversary, I guess, of me starting to cut in this new very free, very loose, very challenging way of faceting, I was talking about how I had a class down in the south of France with a French cutter named Frédéric Coquillot. And one thing physically came out of that class, which was a brand new mechanical stick. He had such a great mechanical stick. I was so impressed with it. I really wanted one. And he put together a group buy of 10 so that me and some other people who wanted one could get one. So basically, this is like my latest toy, but it's actually quite useful. So this is the mechanical stick, and this is the mechanical case. This is just a stick from the Frolap, so it's compatible with the Frolap. The thing that's cool about this, besides the fact that it's very well made out of nice materials, but listen to this. Every time you change the index gear, it clicks. There's also a little markers to let you know where you're at, +8, -8, but this is such a time saver. And I noticed this when I was in the class with Fred, because he would, he'd be cutting his main facets on the 8 sides, and then when he wanted to go to the breaks, 1, 2, keep on cutting, versus other ones that I've used where you can't do that, and you have to really look at the tooth, pull it down, turn it a little bit, double check to make sure you didn't, because the teeth are very small. So if you move over 2.5, for instance, sometimes you don't really notice. This one you always know. 1, 2, 3, easy. So this has been very cool, and this is what I've been cutting on for the last 6 months when I have been cutting. I've now lost track of how many stones I've done. I think it's still in the mid to high 20s. I haven't cut that many stones in the last 6 months. Mostly we've been cutting stones for the new book, and I haven't been doing too much on the Jambpeg. But you might notice something interesting here. In the last video, I was sitting next to a brand new bench that was green and hadn't been restored. That bench is here now, and if you've been following the journey, you probably saw that little restoration video I did where I sanded it and stripped it and redid it, and it looks super beautiful. But now suddenly, I'm sitting next to another dirty old bench that's kind of green, and I'm getting ready to do it again. But this time, I'm actually going to sink the Frolap into the base. You can see I've actually already done it. I cut a hole in this last night. So the Frolap is now sitting in, and I'm getting ready to get a router so that I can actually sink it down even further so that the base of the Frolap is perfectly flat with the base of the bench, which is just so cool. I love this one with the little drawers. You can actually, put stuff in them and use them, which this one was missing. I kind of really wanted drawers. They're very handy. And we had an adventure this weekend, and this is kind of the main meat of this video, is this adventure that we had. So I've been waiting to take another French Jambpeg class. There's a lady up in the Jura. You might have seen her in my previous couple of videos. If you saw the video about the 3 generations of Jurassian women, this is Aurélie. She was kind of the center younger lady of the 4 generations, I guess. And so Victoria and I went up to the Jura this past weekend to do like 3 different things at once. But the main reason we went up was to do a class with her. Now, she's a professional cutter. She's been cutting, I think, for 16 years in a factory, a workshop in the Jura. And her specialty is ajustage sur oeuvre, which means cutting each stone to fit into a very specific piece. Like if you've ever seen any of the Van Cleef & Arpels mystery setting pieces where they do those beautiful flowers and all the stones are perfectly cut to fit into the shape of the leaf, and they're all lined up and perfectly symmetrical and just exquisitely done. This is her specialty. And I really wanted to learn this technique of adjusting the stone for the piece. So we went up for a couple of days to her house, and I brought the Fra Lap with me. And we did a whole class where she walked me through a couple of stones and just showed me how to actually do the technique, which I feel confident that I can do now. Very, very small stones, smaller than I'm really used to working with. I need to change some of the things of my technique actually to deal with this. The dop tip is really too big for a 2mm stone, and this wax really is too soft for a 2mm stone. I think switching to the high heat brown wax is going to be essential if I want to continue this technique, and probably also sharpening the tip of my Jambpeg stick a little bit, because the top of the dop is just bigger than the stone, which is a problem. But I'm going to show you some clips from that class. But before we get to that, we had a whole day of adventure before we met up with her, picking up old machines, old benches, old tools, and all kinds of old stuff, which is where this new bench came in. I discovered this on the internet a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, ah, yeah, another bench, cool, I already got mine. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, man, it's got the drawers. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I just really wanted the drawers. And now that I have it, the price was very good, which is why I felt okay to do it. It came with some cool accessories, which my buddy Charlie's gonna take off of me. So he's kind of split the price with me. And I'm starting to have this idea about what if I did a Jambpeg class, which is something that we've been planning on doing for a while. But what if we did a Jambpeg class where all of the Jampegs were on the traditional benches, not with a hand crank, because that's too much to learn in 2 weeks, with a modern Fra Lap, but in the traditional bench with the traditional posture. So as I'm designing this bench and figuring out how I'm going to modify it, I'm really thinking about posture. How do I sit? How does my arm go? What's the most comfortable way to be? And then, of course, talking to Aurelie and talking to some of the other people that I know in Paris to try to understand what's the best way. How can I optimize my body so that if I'm cutting all day, I still feel good at the end of the day? So I'm thinking about positioning, how high and low it should be, how high and low the benches should be, et cetera, et cetera. And so along with the new bench came a couple new antique tools. And this is the one that I'm most excited about. This is an old one. This is, I would assume, 1920s or 30s. I believe that these all metal ones with the curve are the probably last generation Jura machines. The curve to me is something that gives it away. This is a feature that we only see on later Jampegs. And then again, we see them later in Israeli style Jampegs. And the more that I've cut on the Jambpeg, the Fra Lap, which doesn't have a curved hole base, the more I realize that the curve is really, really important, because as you get into the higher holes, it gives you a bit more leverage. And this one is especially exciting to me because it has the height adjustment, it has the cheater. It doesn't work very well right now because it's all dirty and corroded, but I think once I clean this up and get all the rust and everything off of it, I think I'm actually going to try and see if I can use this on the Fra Lap, because this piece right here will just bolt right on to my existing thing. And this might give me a little bit more advanced options. And possibly this might be a more well-produced Jambpeg. Most of the old ones are very well made. Even today, the old wood ones, when you clean them up and restore them, they work really, really well. They work better than some of the new ones. So I'm curious to see, with Fred's stick, which seems to be possibly the correct size for this, how this might integrate into my Jambpeg setup, and especially after I put it into this new base. So this is something to look forward to. And then, of course, restoring the bench. This is kind of my week project. Stripping down the paint, staining it, oiling it, doing all the good stuff, giving it a protective coat of wax, and then probably painting the legs black like I did the other one. So that will be for a future video. But now let me present you with my weekend adventure in the Jura, with some interesting gear acquisition, and also a new class where I can learn how to do adjustage sur oeuvre. Well, we are back in the Jura. It's a chilly, foggy morning. Not the first early morning this week and not the last. We've got a cool adventure this weekend and it starts right now. We are going to pick up some antique gym cutting gear, including a brand new bench that I've got plans for. So let us see what we uncover up here in a small village just outside of Lons-les-Sauniers.
Alors, voilà la bête.
Cool.
La grosse concentration, comment c'était dans l'eau.
Okay.
Saint-Claude.
Okay, it's
Ouais.
come from the Jura. Is
Okay.
that we'll be able to tell us.
Okay, cool. Everything fits. Now we have to go for part 2 where we pick up all the accessories.
So, since they didn't have money, they were all using.
Et la dame demande si tu le vends celui-ci.
Non, celui-là c'est pour un musée. Vous voyez,
C'est
pardon.
ouais.
c'est le bras qui va sur le. Regardez, hein, moi.
Ok.
Et ce bras-là, c'est ce bras qui va. Donc si.
On travaille sur des machines modernes et c'est vrai quand on va dans des foires ou des choses comme ça et qu'on fait des...
C'est ça.
Est-ce que tu veux le voir là ici?
Ça c'est très
I
rare.
have 2. Ah, but this is different than... This is a...
Ça c'est très rare.
Oh, wow.
Was a diamond seller. Yes. Ouais.
They would just have them in the Brifkas.
So
Oui,
it's small
oui.
but very rare.
And yeah, I never saw that before.
Je vais vous dire un truc.
So this is vintage horological tools for making... Oh, for glasses, not for watches. So... A related industry to the lapidary.
Là, vous avez un petit musée déjà.
On est en route.
Et toi, those were on wine opener and they cut it to make necklaces.
Oh, when did they start making these? Like, what period is this from?
C'est une réaction de la
Plastique,
calvaire
ouais, c'est
modulaire.
What's working?
Et puis
To work on wood.
le drone, donc c'est le calvaire.
So cool just to see everything in one place.
Qui se lève et qui bouge.
And the toys.
J'ai regardé sur Internet.
Well, that was very successful. We got a really cool bench that has a detachable top, which made it very easy to get it in the car. This is early 1900s Saint Claude with a ton of accessories and all these boxes. Some of it's not for me, but a lot of it is. And that's not even all, because tomorrow we're picking up another lot of stuff. We're having so much fun here. It's another early morning up here in the Jura. Frosty and cold. The car's all covered in frost. Luckily not snow, because we got to drive about 40 minutes to Septmoncel to go pick up a bunch of laps and maybe some other old antique faceting accessories. Let's see what happens.
Merci beaucoup. Oui, non, bah oui, bien sûr, le banc, ça je me doute, mais
On a un ami qui a...
Il y a quelques petits trucs qui.
oui, il y a des petites choses qui vont avec. Montrer parce qu'on n'y connaît rien, mais il y a tout matériel.
Il y a même une ancienne lunette, une ancienne lunette dépliée, enfin, il y a tout comme si.
Here's that really primitive one. You can see these two little weird notches. I don't know what they do. This one has that too, and this interesting little lever on the back, which this one also has, but this one has no holes in it. It's like not finished being made, I guess. It's pretty cool. This one's pretty cool. The interesting feature here is, I'm pretty sure that's a table cutter hole. Put your dot straight up and down in there. It's pretty sweet. Two of these curved metal ones, pretty okay. All of it's kind of dirty and stuff. You've got a table cutter here, which these 3 sticks, it needs cleaned up. This one, I'm not sure how this is a kind of a primitive one, which is maybe just a cool collector's item. And this one also is kind of an interesting one. Actually, it's unique. I don't think you can actually use it, but this one's kind of cool. Bunch of little holes. Some handwritten numbers, cheater and everything. And this one has a bunch of really crude holes. No cheater, just a hider gesture. And then this is probably the best one out of it, the curved height adjustment. I think this is in pretty usable shape. And so this is where the learning begins. So Aurelia is showing me how to measure the setting that I brought. So this is a setting that I had made in Bangkok so that I'd have a practice piece. We brought a bunch of synthetic sapphire ovals. She had me cut a baguette to fit into this setting, and now because the stone's on this very nimble stick, it's very easy to pick it up and just push it right into the setting and visually and tangibly feel when it is perfectly the right size. So this isn't about having a perfect plan and a perfect diagram. It's about having the stone in your hand and having the setting in your hand. And this is really the crucial bit of French cutting that we saw so much in our interviews in Paris over the last couple of years.
She's perfect.
So I really wanted to learn how to do this. So here's my first stone done, and you can see the reflection is nice. It fits perfectly into the setting, but this one's quite easy. So now we want to do the hard one, which is this corner edge that has a weird curve in it. So again, she's measuring with the calipers, though she's told us that these calipers they're too bulky and too big for this very subtle, very small measuring. And so she's having me cut in the baguette and then adjust one of the sides with the indexes to try and make it fit. So I cut a little bit more, and here you can see my adjusted baguette. It needed a little bit more adjustment. This one wasn't quite right, but we ran out of time, and I didn't want to take up any more time because I understood exactly how I needed to finish the stone, so I didn't want to take any more of her weekend up. But you can see that it, length and width, it fits. That corner edge needs probably one more or two more indexes to tilt our taper just a little bit down. But all in all, a great weekend. I learned so much, and thanks to Aurelia and Jean-Baptiste for hosting us and being so generous with their time. So what's next for the Jambpeg journey? Of course, just cutting more and more stones. Some of the last few stones that I've done recently I've been really proud of. 15 months in, I should have a good handle on this now, and I think I really do. I'm still not quite ready to do customer stones. I'm still taking a little bit too long and making a little bit too many errors with my meet points and stuff. But the more classes I have, and of course the more practice I have, the better I am. I definitely feel like I have mastered the technique, the foundations at least, to the point where I could easily do a video course or even an in-person course whenever we feel like it's the time. Of course, we need to invest in a bunch of machines in order to do that. Other interesting things that are going on, continuously developing ideas back and forth with Antoine from Frolap. He's just told me that he's working on a sort of a new, version 2 of the Frolap, which is going to have some new features, some new colors. It's really cool. The more that I cut with this machine and the more that I talk with him, the more possibilities there are to kind of put our brains together. And especially after all these different classes I've done and all the interviews and the research and the connections I'm making with the cutters of France, to really pick their brains and see what are the best features that we could add or that Antoine could add. And I'm just sort of throwing ideas to him and seeing, what sticks. But, I'm using this machine. I'm very interested to see where he's going to go with it. And I'm happy that he's letting me be part of the brainstorming process and just figure out how we can make a new one better, whether that means new hardware, new shape, new motor, whatever it may be. It's really, really cool. The other fun thing that I'm going to do with this bench project is I'm going to take the Frolap apart, which is why you see it's just a flat base right now. I'm getting ready to have it powder coated so that it protects the metal, but it also, I think, is going to look a lot cooler than the raw aluminum as it's sitting in the bench. So maybe a gray or a brown, we'll see. Try to figure out a color that will match the sort of reddish brownish tint that this bench is going to have when it's done. So that's kind of my update for the Jambpeg journey. It's been 15 months and I definitely don't regret it. It's been a blast and I'm really enjoying all the people who have been conversing on the Jambpeg Faceting users group on Facebook. So if you're into the idea of Jambpeg cutting, or maybe you are a Jambpeg cutter and you're not in our Jambpeg group on Facebook, please join it. I'll put a link below. Join in the conversation. I'd love to see what you're cutting, what machine you're using, where you're from. There's not enough Jambpeg cutters conversing on the internet, so let's get more conversations going. And if you haven't already heard, of course, we have a new book. in the pre-order phase. It's just going through all the proofreading and editing right now. We're hoping for a summertime 2025 release. We're trying to sell as many books as we can in the pre-order so that we can actually place the order for the books. We're a very small group of 2 or 3 people, and it's very expensive to put out 1,000 books. So we need your help. We had a great success on the first book, and we hope to have a great success on the second book. This is the sequel to The Secret Teachings of Gem Cutting. It's a brand new book with brand new historical diagrams and a brand new historical 30-page intro section. So I'll have a link for that down below too. And the final shout out is just to say thank you to my patrons on Patreon who are supporting these videos and financing the channel and helping me afford to go on all these kind of adventures and classes and record everything and take time out of my schedule and not have to cut so many stones or have a full-time job so that I can actually make this free content for you guys. And of course, make the podcasts, which are exclusive to the Patreon. So if you want to check out the podcast that comes out every 2 weeks, there's a link to the Patreon down below. It's $3 a month or more if you want to, and you have access to all the podcasts that have come out so far. And occasionally some behind the scenes live streams, question and answer sessions, and whatever else. So if you'd like to join me over on Patreon, the link's below. Thank you to all my patrons. I really appreciate it. And to everybody on YouTube who's been watching this channel, thank you so much. Like and subscribe and all the other good things, but mostly have fun cutting, and I'll see you next time. Until then, this has been Justin K. Prim. See you next time.